we have some really exciting trends to dig into for 2026. And I can't believe we have over 1,600 people with us live. This is incredible. I'm going to be sharing my screen here and we're going to dive into my workshop. How are y'all feeling in the chat? We feeling good? You're writing what you've taken away from Ollie's session. Ollie's honesty was so refreshing, very affirming for what I am slowly building. People love the 5 S's or the 5 P's. I love it. Thank you all so much for sharing. I know Ollie is going to love reading what your biggest takeaways were from today. All right, let me share my screen here for a second. All right, everybody see my screen okay? Yes, yes, yes. Let's dig into the 2026 community trends you need to know to grow your business. If you missed the first couple minutes of the summit, no worries. I just want to quickly reintroduce myself. My name is Alexis Teichmiller, and I'm the brand partnerships lead here at Circle. I've had the honor of being with Circle for almost 4 years, which is amazing. I've gotten to teach over 50,000 creators how to launch and grow their community. And I've spent the last decade working with 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs like Amy Porterfield, Ollie Abdal, Pat Flynn, just to name a few. And I'm also a fellow creator. So love side hustles. I'm a business coach. I also host a podcast as well. And just love the creator economy. I've spent the last almost 11 years strictly working in the creator economy because I just love working with entrepreneurs, community builders, visionaries so much, and love that we get to spend time together today digging into some trends. So with the context of today, lots of questions around what is community. So community can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And in today's context, I just kind of want to get us all on the same page that when I'm saying community, what I mean is you are bringing people together around a shared mission, goal, or set of values that supports your life or your business. So it could be a community that you're building that supports your lifestyle, or it could be a community that you're building that supports your profession or your business. So an example, we typically see community builders bringing people together in one of these 3 ways. And I'm going to kind of walk you through them. And I'd love for you to share in the chat which one of these resonates most with the type of community that you're building. And I don't want to oversimplify, but sometimes having simple buckets like this helps us gain clarity. So the first one is you're creating a community to help improve someone's life. So these are your life clubs. Examples of this would be communities centered around fitness, parenting, knitting, cooking, organization, truly just communities that exist to help people improve their life. The second is develop a skill. So these are communities that exist to help people level up a very specific set of skills or a particular singular skill. So coding, writing a book, launching a YouTube channel, growing a business, becoming a better speaker, etc. And then the last bucket is accessing a professional network. So I'm seeing some people already in the chat sharing, which ones that they kind of fit into, which is great. Examples of a professional network would be, bringing together female founders, bringing together B2B marketers, bringing together healthcare providers and pilots, all centered around helping them grow and develop in their professional career. So really cool to see how many of you have so much clarity on which one that you fit into. But when you're looking at these buckets and you're saying, okay, I understand kind of where I am right now, but I'm curious what specific trends are shaping the future of communities? How are these things changing? You even heard Ollie break down how much his business has shifted in the past several years, and even how people are going from building an audience first to now really focusing on what they want to offer and what their niche is, the shift from memberships to cohorts, back to membership. So there's lots of evolution and trends that we see in the space. And we asked 10 community experts as we were kind of preparing, realizing, okay, we want to put together some really focused trends that we're seeing in the community industry and how they're impacting community builders. So we reached out to 10 community experts and asked them kind of what they're seeing unfold in real time. And During one of our interviews with one of our community experts, this woman said, unlike my teenager who loves his screen time, all of my members in my community are asking for less screen time. They're asking for less programming. I want to feel like I can spend less time on my phone, on my laptop, plugged in. Now, I don't know how the circle team got this photo of me because this is sometimes me at night. Anybody else sometimes like you're kind of revenge bedtime, doom scrolling, you've spent all day working or you're just scrolling on your phone or maybe in the morning you get up, you roll over, you grab your phone and you tend to have a lot of screen time. And we're kind of seeing, thank you Leah or Leah, guilty of doom scrolling till 3 a.m. Yes. This is something I right now am constantly working on building some intentionality around, but we are seeing community builders recognize this trend that their members are getting really burnt out from too much screen time. And so to get even more real, we're kind of seeing this digital overwhelm at an all-time high. People are drowning in lots of content, lots of ads, and honestly, AI generated content, which Ollie talked about earlier, it's kind of reshaping the landscaping. It's flooding a lot of the feeds on social with a lot of noise. And it also kind of drowns out the authentic voices because you're not quite sure, what of this is fake or AI generated and what of this is truly real. And no matter how good AI content gets, and even if we want to use AI content, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but people are still like craving that human centered connection and AI can't replace that. You've even seen products like this over here on the right hand side. This is Brick. Is anyone familiar with Brick? Let me know in the chat. What you do is you have this little brick and you stick it on your phone and it blocks all of the apps that you have programmed Brick to block, and then you can't access those apps anymore on your phone. And so you even see products coming out now to help consumers and people just say, okay, I want to not spend as much time on social. I want to like brick these specific apps so that I can focus more time with my family or more time on my business or more time in my communities. I love it. Peyton has it and uses it. Very cool. I promise this is not an ad for Brick, but really interesting product solving a problem that we're just seeing more and more. And that's why what matters most today is not attention. It is creating connection with your audience. But how do you build this authentic, meaningful, community where connection actually thrives and we aren't over indexing on lots of notifications and lots of programming? So we launched the 2026 Community Trends Report, and we're actually launching it today at the summit. This is completely free, and I'm going to be diving into 5 trends from the report. We don't have time to go through all of the trends together, but I wanted to deep dive into 5 of them. And if my team can drop the link to the trends report in the chat, that would be super helpful. Just for those of you that want to download it, again, it's completely free. But we interviewed 10 plus community experts to learn kind of what's working, what's not working. We also surveyed over 700 community builders worldwide, kind of confirming specific patterns that we were seeing and uncovering some new ones in the space. And then we also have over 18,000 communities running on Circle right now. And so we also kind of cross examined this data with what we're seeing across the most successful communities on Circle. And so we uncovered 2 core shifts in the data that then kind of inform the trends that I'm about to share with you today. So shift number 1 is communities are now a differentiator for business. So I think for a long time, and I've even seen it in my evolution of being in the community space for the last 5 years, community used to be kind of seen as this feel-good, nice-to-have extension of a brand. And now it is widely recognized as a powerful growth engine for creators and brands. It's actually the one thing that they can't replicate. They say they can't live without. It's the most meaningful part of their business is their communities. And it's one that builds belonging, that peer-to-peer connection. And it's something that really can set you apart from other businesses and brands. And shift number 2 is that, and this is probably my maybe one of my favorite shifts I'm seeing, because it really gets back to this sense of individuality when it comes to being an entrepreneur that I think is important, is creators and community businesses are realizing that there's no one right way to build a community. There is no one size fits all. Communities are evolving, and so are a lot of the strategies behind them. And so I love that we're seeing more and more community builders ditch this copy and paste, it worked for so and so, so it's got to work for me approach, and really talking to their members and understanding what type of community programming and cadence and rituals inside of my community are going to serve my community best, instead of this is what worked and what I saw work and this was a template I've copy and pasted and I'm actually going to use this to create my own community. But now it's like really getting into the individuality and the nuances of what makes your community tick. So, are you ready to dive in to 5 trends shaping community in 2026? Let me know. Let me know. Oh, and Laura said, I love that these trends are exactly what I've been writing in my newsletter this year. That's amazing, Laura. We're synced up. We're on the same page. I love it. Let me know if you're ready and we will dive in. Haley says, yes, let's go. Okay, so trend number 1 that we saw surface in the report is belonging is the new competitive advantage. And we kind of touched on this a little bit in shift number 1, but belonging truly is the new competitive advantage. And so what does this mean? So traditional branding just isn't going to cut through the noise like it used to. And now belonging is becoming this new way that businesses can really stand out. Because when people feel seen, they feel more connected and part of something bigger, they're not going to just come in and kind of bounce out. They're going to stay around. They're going to actually engage. And you can see some of the data here. Have your members reported that they joined or stayed because of shared identity or values? Meaning they feel like they truly belong in this place because they share a sense of identity, they share a sense of values with the other community members. And almost 70% of survey respondents said yes. Yeah, they have joined or stayed because they feel this stronger sense of belonging with other people in the community. And I think that's what makes community-driven marketing and community-driven growth so powerful. We see this here. 46% of survey respondents said that having a community gives them a competitive advantage. And instead of kind of chasing attention through ads and social, they're really creating spaces where your members can have that peer-to-peer connection. And I think that that's something to really design for in 2026 is how can you create spaces and discussions and event programming in your communities that really create this deeper sense of belonging. Trend number 2, there is a growing culture of experimentation in community building. And I love this. Like people are more willing to experiment and try new things. So this is kind of an expert spotlight. This is Jocelyn. She is the head of community at a company called Hint Health that serves over 2,000 members. And your customers are different. Your product is different. Your team is different. Your brand is different. So focus on building a community unique to your specific audience and needs. And I think this is such a nice reminder. It's a nice refresher of understanding that what you're building is different. There might be similarities between you and other community that you can draw inspiration from. But when you kind of get so focused on what's working for others and not focused enough on who your customers are, what your brand is, and building a community that's really unique to that, it creates kind of this it creates this like generalized, oh, I've experienced that in someone else's community. There's nothing necessarily unique about joining this one. And so there is So to deep this a little bit more, communities that thrive are the ones that are built on small experimentations, honest feedback, and frequent iteration. So you heard Ollie mention in our conversation earlier about, he's getting on sales calls, he's sending out surveys, he's testing out different types of programming inside of his cohorts as well as in his membership. And he's realizing like these small shifts, these small experiments, testing out how they work, and then being able to iterate from there. Instead of copying what other communities are doing, they're really focusing on those specific experiments. So about a third of survey respondents are already developing their own growth and engagement methods. So recognizing like, hey, this one size fits all isn't working for me. And so about a third of them are recognizing, okay, if we're going to grow this culture of testing and iteration, we need to start now. And you can see when you're testing new community programs, how do you typically go about it? And about 43% say we test in small groups or time bound pilots. So you might take your most engaged members and test something really specific with them. Or you might say, hey, for the next 30 days, we're going to try this new type of programming or this new type of event or this new challenge inside the community. And you're very upfront with them that it's a test. You're also upfront with them in the time container that it lives in. So it's only a month and we're going to see how it goes. And then we might, continue this on, but you're not making a lot of promises. I also think that it's important to let your audience or your community members know when you're experimenting so that they're not thinking that you're changing your mind or you're changing the programming all the time. It's you just being really upfront around what you're testing. One second, just need to take a quick sip of water here. But it's interesting to see this split between community builders that test in small groups mixed with community builders that launch the whole community and iterate later. So again, there's not a right way. You could test in a small group. You could test with the entire community. But I think that the point is really focusing on testing and iterating over time. Trend number 3, prioritizing member experience over member growth. I love this. This is a expert spotlight from Rachel Starr. She's actually featured in our panel later today. She is the founder of the Co-Creator Society. And she said that people I'm working with right now are moving away from chasing bigger member numbers. They're charging more and offering a higher level of service in return. And to earn trust, you have to be more nurturing. It takes a lot more handholding than it did a year ago, even a couple of years ago. And it's not just about service. It's about connection and bringing back that human touch to balance out AI. And this kind of speaks to what we were talking through earlier around growth for growth's sake is people are getting away from chasing bigger member numbers and recognizing that to build a sustainable, transformative community, maybe smaller is better. And I'm even seeing lots of love in the chat too for wanting to build a smaller, more intentional community. Let me know if that's you. If you're someone that's like, yeah, I actually don't want to have a community that has 2,000 members in it. I want a focused, community for 100 people and really serving them and offering them a lot of services and bringing back that high touch component. So prioritizing member experience over member growth, about 40% of respondents are deprioritizing member growth for 2026. I think that's really interesting. So of almost 800 community builders we surveyed, almost 40% of them have raised their hand and said, yeah, member growth is no longer going to be a metric that I'm using to measure success for my community. And I'm actually going to start deprioritizing it and focusing on other things. I love it. Terry said, what'd she say? Hold on. Terry said, 100 is my goal for 2026, opening the doors on January 1. That's what we love to hear. Andy said, smaller, more intentional groups of the right members. Couldn't agree more. So a little bit more data on this around capping membership numbers. So 12% of survey respondents mentioned capping membership numbers moving forward to be able to offer more hands-on support and a sense of exclusivity and an environment where members feel really comfortable opening up and being themselves. Right here, if you limit or plan to limit or cap the number of members, what is your primary reason? Most of them said, I want to be able to give more hands-on support or engagement. 30% said, I want to create a sense of exclusivity. Like this isn't for everyone. This is for a set group of people. And I really want to focus on serving them. 15% said to ensure that members feel comfortable opening up. So I don't know about you, but sometimes in a really large community, depending on the types of topics that you cover, it can be difficult for people to be vulnerable, to open up and to share if it's in a really large setting. So these smaller, more intimate groups also give people the opportunity to feel a bit safer so that they actually can raise their hand and say, yes, I need support on this, or I'm struggling with this, or I need, to talk through this with the group, maybe in a hot seat or through some level of mentorship. So really love seeing this. And I think it kind of speaks to the level of intentionality that you're putting into your community. Trend number 4. So forward-thinking communities are are piloting. Forward-thinking communities are piloting flexible participation models. So we're seeing this trend where communities are recognizing that there are really active, superstar level engaged members that are in the community every single day. And then there's also members who are still gaining a lot of value from the community, but maybe they don't like joining live calls. Maybe they're more of a lurker, or they're someone that reads a lot of the comments and posts, but they aren't as engaging on live sessions. And so they're trying to pilot flexible participation models, realizing that different members with different time constraints, different personalities are going to engage with different types of community programming differently. So to dig into this a bit more, people are really seeking online spaces that offer a sense of calm and connection, not here are 50 events to RSVP to this month. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that's quite a lot, right? It can be quite overwhelming. And so to speak to, the trend we're seeing earlier around people feeling really overwhelmed and kind of having this fatigue towards a lot of notifications and a lot of calendar events on their calendars, is how can you create a community that feels calm and that gives people a sense of renewal away from those really busy, cluttered spaces on social media. And so by slowing the pace, making participation a bit more flexible, it's giving online communities the unique ability to create experiences that restore energy instead of draining it. And you can see right here, 50% of the community builders in the survey are prioritizing lighter engagement this year. So they're looking for like shorter videos, fun quizzes, mini challenges, kind of shorter activations that get people still excited, but they don't require as much time for someone to be engaged. And this is a big business takeaway. When everyone's already running unlimited time, less can be more. And so instead of doing always on sessions, try swapping a few for asynchronous or bite-sized content, and create curated experiences where people can join when it works for them, instead of having this set time every single day or every single week in your community. Also, when you're thinking of what specific strategies that you might want to use to make participation in your community feel a bit lighter or a bit more flexible, is just testing out more asynchronous formats and activities, meaning people don't have to be live in the community in order to participate. Creating more bite-sized content or micro-learning. Maybe you're rotating or creating seasonal programming. So maybe you're doing something, instead of shifting programming every single month, maybe you're changing programming to every quarter. And so then you're really going deep on a topic for a quarter, giving people a lot of space to learn and to share and to grow throughout that quarter, instead of changing programming every single month. Creating more skimmable summaries or TLDRs of key conversations. Opt-in only threads or channels for deeper engagement. So there are channels that members can join if they want to, but they don't have to. And so this allows people to go deeper when they desire to, versus it almost feeling as if it's a requirement for them to join every space and be engaged in every single place inside the community. So love this. And I think this is a really lovely kind of strategy in thinking of simple is better. And so when you're designing your product and your programming into next year, we can feel like we have to almost over index, or we have to fill the community with a lot in order for it to be valuable. And that's just not necessarily the case. So you can see that people are actually raising their hand and saying, I want to be a part of this, but I want less. I don't want to feel like I have to attend every single event. And so I think that's really helpful as you're building out and kind of architecting out your programming. Trend number 5. So member connection starts with emotional safety. And I love this discussion. We've seen it a lot inside of Circle and especially with the different types of communities, you know, creating an environment where your members feel psychologically safe to open up and to share with each other is really special. And I think it can create deeper bonds, deeper friendships, and also a deeper tie to your community when you create spaces where you're really upholding this level of emotional safety, especially when we don't get that on social media, right? Social media is not necessarily designed to make us feel emotionally safe. It is designed to get emotional reactions out of us. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes scrolling on TikTok, even for 5 minutes, my emotional ranges are like up and down like a roller coaster. It's not designed for this emotional stability. And so, how can your community create emotional safety and this sense of security for your members? Yes, Arena, we're laughing, we're crying. Couldn't agree more. So, a really great example of this is Matt. He is the head of community at Exit 5, which is a really popular community for B2B marketers. And this first line right here just like really stuck out to me. Community will turn into group therapy at scale. I see it next at 5. Fear is high across many marketing leaders. Marketing's getting harder. Our playbooks are burning before our eyes. We're excited and scared of AI at the same time. I love it, Liam. Yes, David Gerhardt does rock. He is fantastic. Back to Matt here. He said, but there's something that always alleviates fear in tough times. It's going through it with other people like you. There's a certain comfort in knowing others are going through the struggle with you. And if community builders can facilitate that, they will create a super strong connection to their brand. So digging into this a bit deeper, because it's emotional safety has always mattered when it comes to community design. But I would say now, especially because of the world that we live in and the way that social media plays a role in how we feel online, it's becoming even more crucial. And so 73% of respondents from the survey say that emotional safety is a conscious design choice in their community strategy. And it's also a clear sign that trust has become a foundation, real connection. So if you join a community and you're like, oh, I don't actually feel like I could really open up or ask a question, that right there is what is keeping a member from being engaged because they're not necessarily feeling safe or secure enough to do so inside your community. So how do you do this? People need places that they can show up as themselves and share openly and even talk about sensitive topics without fear or judgment, bullying or privacy concerns. And as we talked about, it's pretty difficult to do that across other platforms. So if you're needing some inspiration, we asked our survey respondents, how do you create a sense of emotional safety or belonging? And I saw some people in the chat already say, how do I do this? How do I create this inside of my community? So some examples here would be having really clear guidelines and a code of conduct. We see this a lot in community onboarding. So when a new member joins, they can sign a code of conduct or they are shown a very clear set of guidelines of this is how we show up inside this community. These are the guidelines in which, we ask questions, we don't get defensive. Like there are lots of different ways that you can create specific guidelines, but you're kind of creating this subculture of this is how we treat each other. And we want you to be a part of it. And we also want you to feel like there's a level of responsibility if someone doesn't actually follow through with the code of conduct. The other one is active moderation. So how much you and your team are actively looking at the comments, moderating the posts, and making sure that certain conversations are just staying respectful. The third is thoughtful onboarding process. So we talked about this earlier, but there are ways that you can really create your onboarding process that communicates exactly who your community is for and how it runs and how you talk to each other and how you treat each other and how you ask questions and things like that. You can also do a pre-vetted membership. So this is basically meaning you can have people apply to your membership community or your cohort, and then you can review that application, and then decide, this is a good fit, this isn't a good fit. You can also have private spaces for sensitive topics. So I've seen inside lots of hundreds, thousands of communities at this point, and it's really amazing to see when certain events happen in the world or certain topics become really top of mind in culture. You'll see private spaces pop up that invite people who want to have a deeper discussion about this can go here and have, open dialogue around this particular topic. And again, it's not required, but it's just you as a community builder recognizing, hey, my members, they need to talk about this. They need a place where they can discuss this. I'm going to create a private space that anyone can join and just make sure that, I'm moderating it and making sure that everybody's staying respectful, but it just gives them a space to have those conversations. You can also do some more robust privacy setups. You can ask for anonymous feedback and reporting. So you could put out some surveys and make it anonymous and just ask people, how safe and how emotionally safe do you feel inside the community? Do you feel like you can openly share and so on? And that really gives you kind of a pulse check on how your community members are feeling. You can have a capped community size, which we touched on earlier. And then a pretty low percentage of folks don't have a formal approach. And I think these are really great ideas to kind of get you started to think about how you can, design for deeper emotional safety in your community. So if you want to go deeper into the 2026 trends, you can download the full report. Our team has already pinned it to the top of the chat. You can see it there. Leia says our brand new 2026 Community Trends Report just dropped. You can click that and download the report and see all of the trends. We only went through 5 of them today because we just didn't have enough time to go through all of them. But I think this is a really helpful tool as you are building out programming, as you're thinking about launching. For those of you that are kind of reinventing or rethinking the structure of your community, all of this data and these trends for the new year are really just a way to help inform what do you want to prioritize and which of these trends feel, really aligned with you and which ones don't. Totally fair. And then, design for 2026 according to what works best for you. All right, looking ahead to 2026, here is what I would recommend focusing on: building strong connections. So, kind of to sum up a lot of the discussions that we've been having in the last 45 minutes, is I would focus on creating safe online spaces where your members can show up as themselves, form deeper connections, and really start to feel part of something real again. Something that's not manufactured, but something that's truly honest, that there's some depth, there's some camaraderie around specific topics. And it starts with you as the community builder, really leaning in and creating those deeper, stronger connections with your community. Number 2 is I would champion member transformation. So when your members grow, so does your business. So celebrating your members' wins, telling their stories, and designing experiences that help them see real progress. And it's really decentering you as the community builder and even decentering your business and really centering the member themselves and making sure that they're getting the most out of the experience, that you're really tuned in with the transformation they're experiencing. And that in turn will help grow the business like a beautiful flywheel. The third is keeping things simple. So can you choose meaningful moments over endless notifications, right? We need a break from all the notifications. Can we streamline our programs? And can we give people room to engage on their own terms without creating FOMO? And then the last one is using AI thoughtfully. AI can take a lot of busy work off of your plate, and it can help you create trust and meaning, but we have to use it intentionally to free up our time for what matters most, and that truly is connecting with members and helping them connect with each other. So I know that we didn't go through all of the trends, but that we have 2 upcoming summit workshops that do touch on some of the trends that we saw in the report, one of them being around member transformation. So 69% of survey respondents said that member transformation is their most important strategy for growth and retention in the new year. And Josh Hall is actually going to be coming up here in just a couple of minutes. And he's going to be teaching a workshop on how to keep people coming back for more and really master member transformation. So if you are really wanting to focus on helping your members get the best results from being a part of your community, whether it's a membership or a cohort or whatever your program design is, he's going to help you walk through that. And he's built an amazing community called Web Designer Pro. And I'm really looking forward to his workshop. And then the other one is around AI. So we're having a panel here later this afternoon on the quiet power of thoughtful behind the scenes AI. And so we'll get to hear from 3 Circle customers, Emiliana, Rachel, and Kavit. And they're going to talk about how they're using AI to support their members. And we even saw about 70% of survey respondents are planning to expand their use of AI in their community in 2026. But it's like, how, right? Like, how do you actually do that in a way that aligns with your values and that still keeps the community feeling very human-centered and not overrun by AI or AI responses? So really looking forward to that discussion with them. So we have about 5 minutes to do some Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a second. And I just want to answer any questions that you all might have regarding the trends. And yes, you will get a recording. Lots of questions around getting a recording. Yes, you'll get a recording of all of the summit sessions. We'll be sending that out on Thursday, the 20th. So we'll be sending that out via email. All right, any questions? Let's go to it's amazing. We almost have 2,000 people live. So cool. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so Haley asked a great question on, can you do an application process within the Circle platform between the front end and a paywall? And yes, you can. So if you are interested in gating your community with an application process and you want to really vet your members, you can do that. And let me actually drop a link on how to do that in the chat. And maybe that will help anyone else that's looking for application processes and curious how to do that with paywalls. You can do that inside of Circle. I love it. Any other questions? Let's see. Laura said, I think we all took a giant exhale. Hold on. What did it say? Trends are human and help people make friends while getting results. Yes. Couldn't agree more. Sophie asked a question. What surprised you most with the trends from my end? Yeah. Whenever we were going through the results, I would say the most surprising for me would be people are moving away from member growth as a success metric and actually deprioritizing member growth. That was surprising to me. Just being in the community space for now almost 5 years, I think that you constantly see people wanting to launch more and grow more and like acquire more members, and they want the next cohort to be bigger and bigger. And I think seeing this shift of recognizing that smaller, more intimate spaces are just rich with so much deeper connection. I was surprised and I wasn't at the same time, but it's a beautiful trend that I'm excited to see and see how it takes shape in the new year. Okay. Clara asked a great question. As business owners, hold on, let me see if I can spotlight this. Spotlight. There we go. I love this feature. As businesses and brands start tapping into the value of communities as a core strategy for growth, how can they ensure their communities don't feel transactional and are rooted in substance, depth, and value? Love this. I think that it gets back to the discussions that are happening inside of the community and the programming that kind of supports it. So if you have built a product where you're trying to help someone get a specific result, it's a little bit different. I think that there's different reasons why someone launches a community, but just for the sake of this question, making sure that communities don't feel transactional. I think a lot of that actually starts with you as the community builder. So, how in touch are you with new members that are joining your community or your cohort? And you're asking them questions, you're getting to know them on a deeper level. Maybe you're even doing an onboarding call with them or an orientation call with your new members that are joining to really make them feel very welcome. And you're investing that time up front to let them know that they're valued and that you want to hear from them inside the community. Now, there's an aspect of kind of asking for that engagement too. So you are creating this connection with them, and then you're asking them in return this kind of reciprocity of, hey, I would love for you to share in the community a win that you had, or you had this challenge that you overcame that you shared on last week's office hours. Would you mind sharing that in the community so other people can like hear about your experience? And I think that those stories, those examples, those like deeper conversations that sometimes happen in the DMs, any opportunity that you can pull some of those into a more public community space, I think it starts to create this culture of sharing. And they're like, okay, I really do feel like I'm a part of something with real depth and substance here, instead of something that's more, hey, I check this box, and which can tend to feel a lot more transactional. So those are some top of the dome thoughts around how to make sure that you are creating something that doesn't feel transactional.